To begin with the returning Valentine's half month after 3 years of absence, I feel like it's fair to reveal the iCarly episode I Think They Kissed, especially it's one of the best episodes from this show. Well, it's debatable, but considering of what I've seen from this show and the fact that people haven't made reviews of this lately, I think it's fair for me to actually talk about what I actually enjoy from this episode the most. Sam is having issues eating because during an episode of iCarly, she lost her tooth after eating a vegetable or fruit. And in order to get rid of the pain and soreness, Carly takes Sam to the dentist. The doctors completely use nitrous oxide to calm her down because she was very violent. You know, considering the fact that Sam never went to the dentist whatsoever in about 12 years, it's really understandable the fact that she will be instantly violent to anyone, but this is actually important because if the show actually continue on with her not going to the dentist, we will probably get an episode of her with her teeth falling off and trying to figure out a way for her to communicate with the other characters. But then again, it will be mostly stupid and this episode wouldn't exist in the first place. Anyway, because of the nitrous oxide, she completely revealed the secret that she kissed Freddy in the I Kiss episode to Carly, which mostly paranoids Carly. And this is where I'm gonna stop talking about the episode because, in all honesty, for how this episode is structured, this was bound to happen sooner or later. In the I Kiss episode, where Sam revealed to everyone on iCarly that Freddy never kissed anyone, and the fact that this leads to Freddy into depression, and her apologizing of what she just said, which leads to her kissing Freddy at the end of that episode, and they made a promise to never tell anyone while immediately hate each other afterwards, makes you understand what this episode is gonna be like, and the fact that it has a continuation involving Sam and Freddy's relationship. Granted, there is no relationship, but at the same time, since that this hints to future episodes, which is this one, I honestly think that they did what they could in order to make this episode as good as possible. If you ask me, this episode is truly the final episode where the Sam and Freddy relationship was considered good because, as we all know, no matter what they do in the SETI arc, they just instantly made it way more stupider and way too difficult for us to actually care about this shipping. The thing is, when it comes to shipping in the show, it has to be done right, and sadly, this is the final episode where they got the SETI arc perfectly good. Okay, it wasn't perfect, but at the same time, it wasn't as horrible when they completely try to make this an actual relationship at the end of Season 4, in the beginning of Season 5. When the truth was finally exposed at the end of the episode, I was actually expecting the following episode with a continuation to this. But in the SETI arc that happened later on, it never happened. So I honestly think that this episode was really pointless if it didn't have an actual continuation. Granted, this is the sequel to I Kiss, but if you're going to actually have an arc involving SETI, then you really need to have an actual continuation, because once we saw OMG, this episode really had no reason whatsoever since it had nothing to do with Sam being in love with someone. Because as far as I'm concerned, losing your mind in Season 5 had nothing to do of what we just witnessed from I Kiss and in this episode. And the reactions that we see from Carly in this episode, you can easily relate to her stress. In I Kiss, she was actually surprised that Freddy didn't kiss anyone, but she didn't react it in a very serious way. Because in this episode, knowing that Sam was the one that Freddy kissed for the first time is something that it was the last thing she can imagine Freddy to kiss to. And considering she's the one who took Sam to the dentist all because she lost a tooth on an episode of iCarly, really shows that she actually cares, but also didn't expect the unexpected. The subplot of this episode centers around Spencer going to jail. Well, not really intentionally going to jail like he got arrested. He is actually teaching prison people how to make a sculpture, and that's basically it. I understand that Spencer is the type of person who isn't like everyone else since he went to law school, and this explains onto why Sam, Carly, and Freddy getting stuck into chairs, getting duct tape around them because the prison people trapped them while escaping, However, it makes this subplot really meaningless than anything else. I mean, I've always criticized the subplots in this show before, mainly the fact that it does nothing for filler, but when it comes to the subplots, I can at least understand the purpose of what they're trying to do when it comes to the characters. Here, Spencer, despite being in law school, going to a prison just to teach these people how to make a sculpture doesn't even feel natural for him to do. I mean, before this episode, he grounded Carly until college because he kissed Griffin. Granted, he didn't completely ground her for that long, since that he has a change of heart. But when you completely look at what he does in this episode, it honestly makes his earlier appearances way more questionable. Not to mention that I Date a Bad Boy is a really bad iCarly special compared to the other specials I've seen from the show. Especially when it's forced when we see the ending of them just trapping Carly, Sam, and Freddy. Granted, it's just a way for them to actually get together on the whole secret being revealed and they don't want to keep secrets from each other anymore. But this ending is mostly forced. Especially that when Spencer completely saw that they're trapped, he doesn't care because he takes this instrument because someone on the street is totally into the talent he has when it comes to music. And what I mean by that, it's another girl that Spencer wants to date with. Although it is actually humorous to see them falling off of the ground just trying to get out of the duct tape while Sam just says, well, that didn't work. That's pretty much a good way to end off this episode, despite the fact that this plot doesn't continue on as the series goes on. So, that's basically what I feel about I Think They Kissed. I know there's a lot that I haven't discussed when it comes to the relationships from the show, but in all honesty, for what I saw from I Think They Kissed, really shows how much iCarly did what they could, especially if this is one of the final good shows from Schneider's Bakery in general. And when it comes to Freddy and Sam, if I'm ever going to review the Say Arc episodes, kind of like what Pike Rules did, well, minus I Can't Take It, it'll have to be a time while I'm actually into the relationship, because as of now, doing a review involving the Say Arc as part of Valentine's Half Month is just something that doesn't usually work for me, especially that I'm reviewing 2 other bad episodes for this month once we reach to the final days before Valentine's Day. So anyway, I give this episode an 8 out of 10.
Let's get this started again.